The member's time has expired.
Mr. Speaker.
I call the Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, if the Labour Party regards Honi Harawira as someone they cannot do business with, why is it they sound exactly like him on this piece of legislation? Mr. Speaker, what a disappointment from someone who used to be regarded as a person with the capability and the vision to help New Zealand deal with issues of Maori and Pākehā learning how to live together and work together in New Zealand. What cup was running over there was the Labour Party cup was running over with resentment and regret. Resentment and regret about how they handled this issue. The Labour Party has shown from well before the foreshore and seabed issue, but certainly since 2004, that it does not know how to handle aspirational Maori. That it can handle Maori who may traditionally have done what the Labour Party told them, who thought what the Labour Party said they should think, and who kept quiet about it. But in 2004, they panicked over this issue. They brought in a piece of legislation which was clearly resented and opposed by thousands of Maori, and they did not solve the problem. And that is what this government set out to do. This government set out to solve the problem of different worldviews about property rights, different worldviews about our history, different views about how that history should be expressed in 2010. And Mr. Speaker, it is not an easy problem to solve. And I want to congratulate the Maori Party not for agreeing with what National wanted, because they didn't. And this bill is not what National wanted in every respect. It is the result of a tedious, testing and tense process that has gone on over the last couple of years, not just within the government, and I don't just mean the tedious chairman of the Select Committee, not just within the government, but with thousands of New Zealanders who take an interest in it, among MPs who have sat and listened and wrestled with these issues, and the Attorney-General who has performed in exactly the way Tariana Turia said, with deep respect, with total thoroughness, and with, I must say, an evenness of temperament which is not what we've always associated with him. But he must be complimented on that. And Mr. Speaker, that is in total contrast to that speech from the Labour Party and the way they have conducted themselves through this discussion. And what it shows is their utter lack of suitability to have any responsibility for these issues in modern New Zealand. In modern New Zealand. They might feel comfortable going back to Ratner every year, but the Ratner deal was done with Michael Joseph Savage, a man of vision, but actually it was 80 years ago. That's when that deal was done, and the new kind of deal is much more respectful, it is much more robust, it is much more difficult. And I can say that as a member of the Cabinet who spends probably a quarter to a third of my time, even as Minister of Finance, on Maori-related issues. It is more difficult, but it is real progress. And that's what this bill represents. There will be other issues in New Zealand that are wrestled with as intensively as this one, that are as polarising as this one. Not because we choose it, but because that is the way this nation is with the different peoples who live here. And what I'm so proud of with this bill is that at least 3/4 of the Parliament have illustrated that they are willing and able to wrestle successfully with those issues. Because the alternative is unresolved resentment. The alternative is ongoing injustice or sense of injustice that prevents progress and a positive view of New Zealand. So even if we don't think this bill is perfect, and I don't think there's anyone who does, it is progress. It is a step forward from where we were. It is not a perfect answer, but I suspect it will be a lasting answer, because despite the brave words of Mr Shane Jones, a future Labor government in his time will not undo this piece of legislation. Will not undo this legislation. And it is a sign of the pettiness of an internal damage to Labor that an opportunity they had to demonstrate some vision for New Zealand, they just spouted resentment about the Maori Party. Who we certainly don't always agree with, but who deserve credit for taking an historic opportunity to use the democratic process to take responsibility for a solution. And that is in marked contrast to the way a lot of these issues have been dealt with in the past. To take responsibility for a solution, and we've had to as well. My email is overloaded with people who say they will never vote for me again. I actually think they will. Well, when it comes to polling, if 89% of New Zealanders don't like this bill, that's only marginally more than the percentage that don't like the Labor Party. So if I was them, I'd just keep the polling numbers to yourselves. Mr Speaker, can I acknowledge the work of the Select Committee, its chairman and our members, who, without much public recognition, the Honourable Tauhenere, they did a great job of persisting through weeks and weeks of very polarised discussion to come up with solutions that would work. And in particular, I want to congratulate the Attorney-General. Only someone of his intellectual breadth and determination would be able to see this bill through what would be about the most intensive process I've ever seen a piece of legislation go through in 20 years in Parliament. And finally, to acknowledge my colleagues in the government, which consist of the National Party and, of course, the Maori Party, and actually the ACT Party in their own way, in their own very unique way, have seen through the process to a result. And it is a result that we should be proud of, not because the piece of legislation is a fantastic piece of art and political creation, but a result which comes from a proper, realistic, forward-looking process for dealing with very difficult issues. We could have collectively allowed this to become as polarised as some wanted it to. We could have let that happen, but we didn't. And in that respect, I want to pay tribute to the leadership of the Prime Minister, who can't be here today, because at all times he was able to bring to this discussion his own particular mix of equanimity, of decisiveness, of a generosity of spirit that set the tone for the relationship between the Maori and the National Party. And quite frankly, Mr Speaker, this country will need the same kind of process again. Mr Speaker, I support the third reading of this bill. I'm disappointed that Mr Jones took this occasion to miss his opportunity, which was a big opportunity, to lift himself above the level of the rest of the Labor Party, but that's how they've gone so low they've dragged him down as well. Mr Speaker, that is a disappointment, but this bill isn't. It's a success.